In today's video, we are going to be creating an amazing poster design for Lay's potato chips. Grab your mouse as we dive in. First and foremost, we are going to create a new document. Choose a solid color. Choose a solid color. With a solid color in place, we are going to grab our asset for this tutorial. Copy this texture, Ctrl+C to copy, Ctrl+V to paste. Right click and convert to smart object, Ctrl+T. And we are going to scale this. We click the check mark to confirm. And we are going to set the blend mode to overlay and reduce the opacity. Now we are going to create an exposure adjustment layer. With the matte selected, grab a soft-tone brush. Increase opacity. Set foreground to black. Make the brush bigger by the right bracket key and make a few clicks. Now we are going to set the blend mode to multiply. Ctrl+J to make a copy. Then we are going to reduce the opacity of the copy. Let's grab this ground texture, Ctrl+C to copy, Ctrl+V to paste. Right click and convert to smart object, Ctrl+T, and we are just going to scale this. We position it properly. Now we are going to set the blend mode to multiply. We are going to create a levels adjustment layer clipped onto the layer so the effect applies only to the layer. With the layer selected, we are going to create a mask. Grab a soft-tone brush. Our foreground is black because we are erasing, so we increase the opacity and we are just going to erase this way. We zoom out to reduce the opacity, set foreground to white, and we are going to be painting some back. And reduce the opacity. Create a new layer. Grab a soft-tone brush. Set foreground to white. Increase opacity. Set opacity to 100. Increase the brush size by the right bracket key and click once. Then we are going to set the blend mode to overlay and reduce the opacity. Let's grab this item, Ctrl the potato in a box, Ctrl+C to copy, Ctrl+V to paste. We copy the next item. Now we are just going to put these vines all around it. We are going to drop the layer once more. Let's copy this vine. we right click and convert to smart object. So we are just going to drop this layer. Once we position it here, we are going to drop the layer just beneath Lay's potato. With this layer in place, we are going to create a mask. Grab the polygonal lasso tool. So we are masking out this portion. We create a selection just this way. We set foreground to black. With the mask selected, then we are going to press Alt backspace on the keyboard. So we are filling the selection with the foreground color black and everything is hidden. So we create a selection. Once you have a selection, with the mask selected, we press Alt backspace on the keyboard. So we are going to do the same for this. We create a mask. We grab the polygonal lasso tool. And we are just going to mask this portion out. With this layer selected, we are going to create a color balance adjustment layer clipped onto the layer. So we are just going to move the slider this way. With the layer selected, we are going to reduce the opacity because that's way too much. With the mask selected, we are going to grab a soft round brush. Reduce the opacity. Our foreground is set to black and we are going to erase just this way. With the layer selected, so we are going to apply a layer style to this. We choose blending options, then we are going to apply a drop shadow onto this. So we set the angle, distance, size and spread, and that will be fine. Then we hit OK. We are just going to close the layer up, right click and create layer. So we are separating the shadow onto a new layer. Right click on the layer and we are going to convert to a smart object. We go for filter. We go for filter, blur and motion blur. So we are just going to set an angle and a distance and we hit OK. And with the layer in place, we are going to create a mask. Our foreground is set to black, so we are going to erase this portion. So we are going to create a new layer, set our foreground to black, and we are just going to paint some shadows right here. With the layer selected, Ctrl J, we make a copy. Then we are going to reduce the opacity. We are reducing the opacity of the copy. With the mask selected, we grab a soften brush. Our foreground is black, and we are just going to erase this way. With the layer selected, we are going to create an exposure adjustment layer. Clipped onto the layer, so the effect applies only to the layer. With the mask selected, Ctrl I to invert. We grab a soften brush, then we are going to set our foreground to white, and we are going to paint some shadows. We swap to black, and we are just going to erase if that is too much. Let's reduce the opacity, and we are going to paint more shadows. We are going to create another exposure adjustment layer, already clipped onto the layer. With the mask selected, Ctrl I to invert. We increase the opacity. Our foreground is set to white, and we are going to paint some shadows. We are going to reduce the opacity. We are going to create another exposure adjustment layer. With the mask selected, Ctrl I to invert. We grab a soften brush, and we are going to paint some shadows. We are going to reduce the opacity. With the mask selected, Ctrl I to invert. We grab a soften brush. Increase the opacity. Foreground is set to white, and we are just going to paint some highlight. With this layer selected, we apply the layer style, so we go for blending option, and we are going to apply drop shadow onto this and do similar thing. And we are going to apply motion blur, just as we did earlier. So we set the opacity, we set the angle, our distance, our spread and size, and we are just going to hit OK. So we close this up, right click and create layer. Then we are going to convert this layer to a smart object. Go for filter, blur, then we are going to apply a motion blur to this. So we are just going to change the distance and set angle at 36. Then we hit OK. With the layer in place, we are going to create a mask. Grab a soften brush. Our foreground is set to black. We are just going to erase. So we are going to erase this way. Ctrl J to make a copy, and we are going to reduce the opacity for this. So we are going to create a new layer. Copy this hex code right here. Then we are going to set the foreground to this hex code. We grab a soften brush. We are going to increase the opacity. And we are going to paint some shadows this way. So we're just going to paint some shadows this way. That's way too much. We are going to reduce the opacity. Create a mask. Set our foreground to black. We are going to reduce the opacity. And we are going to erase. With this layer selected, we are going to create an exposure adjustment layer clipped onto the layer. With the mask selected, Ctrl I to invert. To reduce the opacity, our foreground is set to white and we are going to paint some shadows. So just as we did earlier, we are going to apply exposure adjustment layers, paint shadows, paint highlight. Once that is okay, then we proceed.